Hello and welcome to I Stand with Zambia YouTube channel. My name is Mwansa. This channel is not affiliated with any political party, but it is 100% affiliated with being a Zambian. Last night, I watched a really enlightening interview on Camnet TV, which is a Zambian channel. And on this channel, they were discussing the fact that yesterday was a public holiday known as Heroes Day, and that today is a public holiday known as Unity Day. I had no idea that there was even a public holiday, Heroes Day. The topic that they were really discussing was to find out who are the heroes in Zambia. The argument was that what we're told, what most people know, people who are born after a certain period, what they know is that the heroes we celebrate are the people who are recognized as being part of the unique independence struggle. Yeah? And so they're discussing the fact that there are other individuals who were also part of that time, and they are not being mentioned. And then they also talk about the fact that there was life. There were people who were in the struggle for African liberation in Northern Rhodesia before 1960 and even after. So we have heroes not just within the 1960-1964 unique period. There were heroes before that time, there are other heroes within that time, and there are heroes after that time. They talk about how the focus on being a hero in Zambia is only connected to politics, but that we should broaden our horizons to consider other sectors, okay? And the person who is being interviewed, his name is Akashambatwa Lewanika. Now, if you've seen my other video where I discussed the freedom of speech and Bill 10, you will recognize that name. And if you haven't watched that video, I recommend that you go and watch it, because there's going to be a part where I'm going to insert the photograph of that particular video, because this man is going to give us an amazing chronological order of events that happened, and he's going to mention the period in which my video captures. So I am also in this video, I'm just coming in to sort of set it up, but I'm not gonna come and give a voiceover or a narrative, because when you watch it, you will know that he's saying so much, there's no need to add anything extra. The only thing I will do is just add images. I will impose images over just to give a bit more context, because I'm a visual learner, so when I see things, it just makes more sense to me. So that's pretty much what I'm going to do. Now, before I go, I just want to say thank you so much to our subscribers. We have reached over 100 subscribers, and we did that in less than 3 weeks. So thank you so much for standing with Zambia. Thank you so much for those who have taken their right on the podium, standing with Zambia in your own absolute right. So thank you so much for taking us over 100 subscribers within our first 3 weeks, which is so amazing. We're now well over 150. So I just want to thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for believing in the vision that I have for this page. Thank you for trusting me. Thank you for being interested in the content. And so, God bless you. Thank you. Thank you. Woo! Thank you for everybody who's supporting the channel. Thank you so much. Even my family, they're so supportive. And I just want to thank them for your help. So God bless you. Mwah! God bless you. And here's the video. This is
Mr. Aka, let's go into the thick of things. I mean, look, today we are commemorating Heroes and Unity Day. This day seems to be on a quieter side. Unfortunately, I've tried to check what our theme for this year is. Unfortunately, I can't find any. I don't know, maybe Kaseba, you've come across one?
No, I've only heard...
Well, then it means that you are free to choose. Why do you want somebody else to choose your theme? So
normally we have the theme that we go with as a nation.
Because normally you are dictated to. Now you are free.
But
Please.
I don't know what has gone wrong. Why we don't have a theme? Because what are we looking at?
No, but you don't need guidance. You yourself, when you think of Heroes and Unity Day,
I mean, you may be right. Let me maybe ask.
Maybe let's say that the background that by coincidence, Heroes and Unity Day fall on the days that were Cecil Rhodes Day and Founders Day. Founder means the founder of Southern Rhodesia and Northern Rhodesia.
Now let's have the theme.
Then after independence, the same days were renamed as Heroes and Unity Day.
Right.
That itself gives some indication that there was perhaps dissatisfaction with the idea of naming a day after one person and naming a day after a person whose only relationship with the people here in this part of Africa was that he was leader of the British South Africa Company and a pathfinder for colonization of Southern and Central Africa. So there was objection to that. But I think there was a recognition that it should be depersonalized. So I think that's one of the themes that must be carried over, whether it's official or unofficial. How to depersonalize the commemoration of Heroes Day, and how to detach or not restrict the unity of the nation to its colonial past. So the challenge really was to broaden the identification of which heroes and what heroic deeds to be commemorated, and also to broaden the nation building to include, I presume, the pre-European colonialism days and include the post-colonial days.
Right.
So I think that is basically what I assume those who found it fit soon after independence. Right. The discussions you normally have had about heroes tend to be predominantly about political heroes,
right,
and predominantly about heroes who are within the UNIP narrative. You know, there isn't too many heroes from the Congress days.
You've seen the way
there isn't.
Have you seen the way this panel is? These are probably the young generation, not from your time. So we balance it.
Fine. So that I think that the challenge is to broaden your focus to beyond the UNIP narrative, not to erase the UNIP narrative, but to understand that there was a world before UNIP,
right,
and there has been a world since UNIP. So it seems that even the post-UNIP government, maybe because they went through school under the UNIP narrative, they've been brainwashed to narrow history. Now, when they are looking for heroes, they are just looking for heroes within the UNIP era, because they were taught those are the heroes. But even that history of UNIP, if you are not careful, it can be further narrowed or needs to be investigated further. Even within the UNIP era, there may be other events, other activities, other personalities who are being ignored.
Unknown. Who are our heroes in terms of politics? And are we really celebrating people that have done great stuff for this country?
Well, okay, the source of, for you to find out whether, basically you are talking about history, okay? So if you are looking, if you want to start in politics alone, then you can decide how far to go, whether if you go into the pre-colonial days, that in the advent of European colonialism, there was resistance, accommodation, a way to deal with that. And that the fact that we have survived them, it means that there must have been some heroic deeds to make us survive, because we could also have been wiped out under those challenges. So we have to look at pre-colonial history.
Right.
And we have to be very proud of African history before Europeans. The kingdoms that we had, how they were built, the challenges that they faced, how they were faced in. So those should not be ruled out of the areas in which you look for heroes. Then in the colonial period, there was a question of being conquered, being a protectorate, and the Africans who were being exposed to European education, to missionary education, and to European economic activities, formed welfare associations. For instance, in 1924, a welfare association was formed in Mwenzo with Mr. Donald Swale as leader or chairman of that. That was the first rural official. And I say official because even before that, there were many other unofficial ways which we are free to investigate and highlight when we identify them. That was the first rural one. The first urban one was the Livingstone Welfare Association. So that all those people who were with Mr. Suwale in Mwenzo, to me, our heroes because they are pathfinders.
Right.
They were building the foundation blocks. I should also say, even before that, as I've indicated, the traditional African system had to confront European onslaught, whatever versions. So they are also our heroes because that is the building block that made us survive. Then you had the urban, the first urban welfare association in Livingstone. All those who were there should be identified as part of our heroes. You had an attempt to start the African National Congress in 1933 at Kafue.
Now you are getting the history that we've been looking for.
At Kafue. It did not last, partly because it was not recognized. Then, as the mines were picking up, the workers, the proletariat, the African proletariat population was growing. And there was a question of their welfare. First, they had appointed people, elders from the African community, normally appointed on ethnic basis. Like they would have an elder for the Bembas, an elder for the Mwachusas, whatever it is on the Copper Belt. But that soon evolved into the start of the trade union labor movement. It later became trade union officially, much later. But then also the welfare societies, which had started in Mwenzo and Livingstone, spread in all the urban areas, in Kabwe, in Luansha, in Kitwe, and so on, to form that. So those who were involved in all those, we should recognize, we should do research and find who they are and recognize them as the builders. Then the European system itself, in the 1941, constituted the Northern Rhodesia African representative councils at provincial levels.
I doubt if Kaseva understands what you're even talking
at provincial
about.
levels. Now, I think that those who were the leaders of those in the different provinces should not be forgotten among our heroes. And then this was also formed in a territorial African Representative Council,
Right.
with the provinces picking 2 people to be in it and so on. It is out of that that the Welfare Association itself, parallel to that, in 1946, the Quito Welfare Society proposed that the welfare societies should form a territorial union, the Northern Rhodesia Federation of African Welfare Societies, which was made in 1946. So all those people involved in this are your heroes. Then 2 years later, it was again resolved that this Federation of Welfare Societies should reconstitute itself into an overt political organization. This is the Northern Rhodesia African Congress,
Right.
which was founded in 1948. In 1952, it changed its name to the Northern Rhodesia African National Congress. It's important that the change of name of adding national is not a break, because the first attempt in 1933 used the word national. And it was thought that that is what made it unacceptable to the authority. So in order to have a door opener, you dropped it, but you formed a Congress.
Right.
Congress itself was a dynamic word, because in 1912, the South African National Congress was formed as the South African National Native Congress, before they dropped native. So that it was a very progressive move to change to that. And it changed gears, because for the first time in 1948, we had the first overtly political organization. It was not about welfare, it was not about union. Parallel to that, the trade union movement now, in the same year, 1948, the first trade union movement, official trade union, was constituted. So all those people involved in the labor movement, in the welfare society movement, in the formation of
Are we able
Congress,
to trace all those people?
well, that is, I can name some of them, but I just want to give you the framework. So that now, from 1948 to 1958, this Northern Rhodesia African National Congress movement was intact. It was the sole political movement. Then in 1958, it split. The Zambia African National Congress broke away from the Northern Rhodesia African National Congress.
Right.
In 59, ZANC, as it was called, was banned, and its leaders were arrested. And at the end of 59, they were released. In fact, they were being released throughout, but the final leaders were released at the very end. So it's then at the end, in the beginning of January 1960, that is when what had been formed as the outgrowth of ZANC, the UNIP, was handed over to the leadership of President Kaunda in January 1960.
Okay.
So that now from 1960 to 62, there was a campaign first against the Federation and for a better constitution with more votes for voting space for Africans. And in 1962, under a more expanded voting list with more Africans, an election was held. But it was a stalemate. And because it was a stalemate, the UNIP, which was basically a breakaway from Congress, and the Congress from which it broke, decided to constitute a coalition government, which now ushered in for the first time a cabinet with a majority of black Africans, indigenous Africans, from 1962 to 63, end of 63, the Federation ended. In January 64, another election was built, this time on an even more democratic basis, with a majority of black voters. That election led to UNIP being able to have a commanding majority without having a coalition government. That is in January. So between January and May 1964.
How have you managed to keep all that history in your mind? I'm just wondering, sitting
I read every day. So for this critical 5 months from January to March, that's when the negotiations were made for Zambia's independence and concluded. So that in January, a Zambia independence bill in the British Parliament was passed. So and that constituted the first constitution of Zambia. The Zambian constitution was not made in the Zambian Parliament at that beginning. But it was a result of negotiation. We can go into those details. But what's important is that this is basically the background. And one of the key parts of the Zambian independence constitution, and beyond that, the Zambian independence dispensation, I always distinguish because beyond what was in that constitution in January, it was only possible to have it because first they had to sort out the Barotseland question. So before the Northern Rhodesia independence discussion could be concluded, they had to sort out the Barotseland question. And the sorting out was the Barotseland Agreement. So the Barotseland Agreement is an integral part of the Zambia independence dispensation beyond the Zambian independence constitution. And this dispensation, one, guaranteed that Zambia will be a multi-party government. Two, that the opposition party will be recognized in parliament and basically to be an honorable participant in the governance of the country. Two, the Europeans who were concerned about whether or not if they remain in Northern Rhodesia when it goes under a black government, they will be thrown to the sea, or there will be racial reverse racism, or their property will be grabbed, were also assured. Barotseland was also assured that you can be part of this new Zambia, but on the condition of the Barotseland Agreement. The African National Congress was comforted that you can be part of this new Zambia. Because even though you are an opposition, and the Congress became an opposition, a minority party in January 64, because there will be room for opposition, there will be respect for the opposition. So all these, I think I have said in the last few days, I've been saying it too much, but you can't say it enough because this is the key. So all this was a product of compromise between the majority party, UNIP, the minority party, Congress, the representative of European settlers who were comfortable to continue in Zambia as Zambians, and also Barotseland. Okay? Now, it was suspected that just agreeing is not enough. That how are you sure that this agreement will be honored? Now, they agreed that in order to make sure of that, that there will be a referendum clause, a clause which said no part of the Constitution, not even a comma, can be changed except if the proposal is put to a referendum and accepted and supported by a majority of eligible voters. You know, the eligible voters are more than the registered voters, because some eligible voters don't register.
Right.
Okay? And the registered voters are always more than the voting voters. So it means that you did not just need to win the support of those who voted, you also needed to win the support of all those who registered, even if they didn't vote. You also needed to vote all those who are eligible to vote, even if they did not register and they did not register. Now, this was a big hurdle that really for a proposal to get support like that, it had to be a win-win proposal in which everybody feels comfortable with. Unfortunately, the history of Zambia is that 4 years after independence, a referendum was held to withdraw that security of a referendum. And this licensed Zambia to now regress politically, regress democratically, by allowing the ruling party, through its majority in parliament, to be able to change almost any part of the constitution that it pleases for its own purpose. In other words, constitutional proposals, proposals for changing the constitution, no longer required to be a win-win outcome. It did not matter if some were aggrieved as long as they were a minority.
Right.
It did not matter if this was just for personal interest or partisan interest or against some other people.
I can see you're passionately talking about...
Yeah. So, yes. But you see, it's an evolution. So that what you see is that after independence, there was regression. All the way up to independence, the democratic movement was building up to more and more people being able to vote, one man, one vote, and universal suffrage, right up to independence. Then after independence, you start making constitutional changes which undermine that right to vote. Because in the end, using this blanket check.
So I was coming to that to say, it seems the issue of the Constitution started way back, isn't it? Because
yes,
today we're still talking about the Constitution.
Because the Constitution, and to discuss the Constitution of Zambia now, you cannot do it without discussing how it was constituted in the first place.
How was it constituted?
It was constituted as a product of negotiation of recognized different stakeholders with different concerns, with different interests, and different...
How many stakeholders are these?
So basically at the core you had 4 stakeholding groupings which agreed in the Zambian dispensation. But after independence, the party which was a majority decided to abuse its majoritism to destroy that balance, that negotiating, that compromise package. And that was the beginning of the downhill process of the Zambia.
All right.
I think that...
So we'll be coming back to you shortly.
I think that the leaders of our traditional authorities are among our heroes. All our kings were among our heroes. Because, I will jump forward, that at the time of independence, our traditional leaders had kept 96.4% of our land under native authorities. And whoever gives you land, there's no other bigger present they can give. So our traditional leaders are our biggest heroes. Because despite the threat of a more powerful forces, from global forces, they still managed one way or the other to retain land in the hands of Africans. That is heroes number 1. I can't count them all. So that now I've mentioned the Welfare Association. In the Mwezo Welfare Association, it was headed by Donald Swale and 6 or 7 others, including Dr. Kaunda's father, David Kaunda. So all those 6, plus their members, because the majority did not have official position, which is the misfortune of history, that those with offices will be remembered, but those with offices have been put there by people who are nameless. So all those, if we can capture them, are our heroes. So from 624, I would say those are our heroes, including Donald Swale and David Kaunda. In 28-29, when the Livingstone Welfare Association was founded, the chairman was a Mr. Nyirenda, who happened to be from Nyasaland at that time. The Secretary General was my father, Untitled Lewanika, who at the age of 24 became the founder secretary of that. You had Mr. Nelson Nalumango. You had other people. This why I didn't want to name them, because I really don't want to forget anyone. But it was a group of at least 10 people.
Right.
Leading the first welfare.
Okay.
Then when the welfare association were being brought in towns, you had like Mr. Yumba, Doubt Yumba, who was in the welfare movement both in Kabwe and also founded the Rwansha one. Again, my father, I'm not naming them all, Then you had the Kitwe Welfare Association. You know, in fact, it was the Kitwe Society, African Society, founded in '44. And it's the one that passed the resolution. That again was under the chairmanship of my father. But Mr. Harry Nkumbula was a member, although not an office bearer. Mr. Kapwepo was a member, although not an office bearer. You had other members who were office builders, office holders there. Then when the Welfare Association federated, Mr. Dautiamba, who had been in Kabwe and Luansha, became the president of that. His vice president was Mr. Mufayam, not Mufayamu Mbuna, but Mufana, so on. Then in '48, this was transformed to a political organization. Then my father became the founder president of the first political organization in Zambia, in northern Rhodesia. Zambia, we